Lewis, from the data we saw, it looked like you were faster in the corners than Charles, but slower on the straights. Is this an element of this year's racing that every driver sort of has to adapt to, or how are you feeling in the car, do you feel?
I'm generally feeling... I was feeling pretty decent. I mean, it's just we're not very quick. I mean, compared to the guys, the Mercedes and a little bit the McLaren. My first lap I was up, and then I lost 2.5 tenths just on the straights, just from I had a snap, and then it changed the deployment, and then that was it. So, and at the point I was up, so I probably, if we didn't have that problem, I probably would have finished. I probably would have had fourth. But other than that, it's just the way this deployment situation is.
From the races you've done so far, what have you learned that you can take into tomorrow's race to turn that P6 into a podium or better?
I don't know whether or not we can turn it into a podium, but I mean, our race pace has been pretty decent. It looks like McLaren have taken a step forward. Naturally, they've got the Mercedes engine, which is a long way ahead of us at the moment. And we've got a huge amount of work to do. To be 8 tenths off, or 7 tenths, whatever it is. Even if you bring an upgrade of a couple of tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths, is still a long way off. So to close that gap, it's going to take a mighty push from everybody.
Give it that wiggle.
It was okay. I wasn't too stressed. Also because, I mean, I don't know what the perception was of this moment, because I feel like many people were saying me that I was losing lap time because of that. I actually gained a lot of lap time by carrying that amount of speed in that corner. So actually it was a good thing that I had this moment, and I don't think it sacrificed any of my lap after that. So I was just pushing to the max, and it was a pretty good lap overall. The only thing that we struggle on our side for now is whenever we push in Q3, the optimization of the system is struggling a little bit, and then we lose times in the straight. So we lost a lot of lap time in the straights in sector 2 and 3, and that is very frustrating because as a driver you cannot do much. But yeah, I know the FIA is working actively on this issue, and hopefully we can find a solution soon, as in qualifying it's very frustrating.
Are we really seeing the best Lewis Hamilton except that he has no pace? Or is there something much bigger behind his P6 in Japan? Because what he said after qualifying was not a simple statement. It was a direct warning about the true state of Ferrari. Almost 8 tenths from pole, with no real options for victory, and recognizing that the team has not yet taken the step, Hamilton dropped a message that completely changes the narrative. They are not failing because of a specific error. They are far away because of a much deeper problem. And the most worrying thing is not the position. He himself admits that he doesn't have confidence in the car. So the question is inevitable. Are we facing a simple bad weekend, or the confirmation that Ferrari is still not ready to fight at the top in 2026? What we saw in the Japanese GP qualifying was not simply a discrete result from Lewis Hamilton. It was confirmation of a reality that Ferrari has been trying to hide since the beginning of the season, and that is that the distance with the reference teams is not only still there, but is greater than many wanted to admit. Because finishing in P6, almost 8 tenths away from pole, is not a coincidence or a specific execution error. It is a direct reflection of the car's real performance on a circuit that forgives absolutely nothing. Suzuka exposed every weakness, every lack of confidence, every balance problem, and Ferrari was completely exposed. Hamilton understood it from the first moment of the weekend, even before qualifying arrived. His feelings were already negative since training, and he did not hide it at any time. In fact, he left one of the harshest phrases we've heard this season. He acknowledged that he was slow because he didn't have confidence in the car. And this is key to understand, because in Formula 1 confidence is not a minor detail, it is the basis on which you build each lap, especially on a track like Suzuka where you need to attack each corner with absolute precision. When a driver like Hamilton says that, he is not talking about a small adjustment, he is pointing out a structural problem in the behavior of the car. And yet, the most shocking thing comes later, when he analyzes his result with total coldness. It doesn't try to sell an optimistic narrative. It doesn't talk about bad luck or traffic or external details. Get straight to the point. Ferrari is not at the level of Mercedes or McLaren, and with that current performance they simply cannot fight for victory. That clarity in his speech is what really sets off the alarm, because it makes it clear that within the team they know perfectly where they are, and that the gap is real. But there is something even deeper in all this, and it is the feeling that Ferrari is still in a constant searching phase. Hamilton mentions that the team has not yet taken that step forward, which implies that the solutions are not yet clear, that the development is not aligned with what they need on the track. It's not just a matter of pace, it's a matter of technical direction. And while other teams already have a solid base on which to evolve, Ferrari is still trying to understand its own car. What makes this moment critical is not the isolated result, but the context. We are in an early phase of the season where the gaps should be tighter, where the teams are still exploring their potential. But Ferrari is already showing a clear disadvantage. And when this disadvantage is accompanied by a lack of confidence on the part of its star driver, the problem stops being technical and begins to also be mental. Because in the end, what Hamilton leaves us with his statement is not only an analysis of Saturday, it is a warning of what can happen on Sunday and, more importantly, what can happen in the next races if Ferrari does not find answers quickly. The problem for Lewis Hamilton does not end in that P6. That is where something much more worrying really begins to take shape within Ferrari, because when you analyze the entire weekend, you realize that it is not just a lack of rhythm, it is a total disconnection between what the driver needs and what the car is delivering to him. And this is where the most critical point of this entire analysis comes in, the lack of trust. Not as a passing sensation but as a constant symptom. Hamilton not only said it once, he dragged it throughout the weekend, and that conditions absolutely everything. Because when a driver does not trust the car, he cannot attack the corners, he cannot take risks when braking, he cannot construct a qualifying lap at the limit. And at a circuit like Suzuka, that translates directly into lost time in each sector. The most interesting thing is that Ferrari tried to react. There were changes, there was work during the night, there were adjustments to the setup precisely seeking to regain that confidence that Hamilton had lost. And at one point there was a slight improvement, but it wasn't enough. Because the problem didn't go away, it just put on makeup. And that perfectly explains why, even with improved sensations, the difference with the pole is still so great. This is where it all starts to escalate. Hamilton is no longer talking about adapting to the car, he is talking about understanding it, finding a direction. And that is a very clear sign that Ferrari is still in an experimental phase, testing solutions without being absolutely certain which is the right path. Meanwhile, teams like Mercedes and McLaren already have a solid foundation, they already know how to extract performance from their packages, and that is the real difference we are seeing on the track. Furthermore, there is a detail that cannot be overlooked. The gap of 7/10 is not just a number, it is a huge competitive barrier in current Formula One. It is not cut from one session to the next, it is not solved with a small adjustment. It requires evolution, understanding, and, above all, time. And that is precisely the luxury that Ferrari does not have if it wants to stay in the fight this season. But most telling of all is Hamilton's tone. There is no uncontrolled frustration, there is no direct criticism, but there is a clarity that outweighs any complaint. He knows that the car is not ready, he knows that he cannot fight for victory in these conditions, and even so, he maintains that approach of continuing to push every weekend. And this is where the great mystery that defines this entire act opens up. If Ferrari is still looking for answers, and Hamilton still doesn't trust the car, what will happen when circuits arrive where the weaknesses of the SF26 are even more evident? And this is where everything fits. Because Lewis Hamilton's statement after qualifying in Suzuka not only explains Ferrari's present, but practically anticipates what can happen in the short term if nothing changes within the team. Hamilton has already made it clear that they are not at the level, that the difference is real, and that they have not yet taken that step. But the most important thing is what that means for the future. Because in Formula One, when a driver of his experience reaches that point of clarity, it is usually because he has identified a pattern, something that cannot be solved simply with more laps or small adjustments. It is a problem that needs evolution, technical direction, and forceful decisions. And this is where the situation becomes even more delicate. Ferrari is not only behind, it is in a position where each race can widen the gap if they don't react quickly. While other teams build on solid foundations, Ferrari is still trying to find its true starting point. And that, in such a competitive season, can cost much more than a bad classification. It can cost the entire fight for the championship. But what really defines this moment is Hamilton's mentality. Because despite everything, despite recognizing the limitations, despite knowing that they are not there to win right now, they maintain a firm stance. Every weekend is a new opportunity. And that is not just a phrase, it is a declaration of intent. You are accepting the process, but you are also making it clear that you are not going to give up on it. This brings us to the final point. Ferrari has two paths. Either it quickly understands what is going wrong and reacts, or it risks getting stuck in a season where it will always be chasing, but never catching up. And Hamilton, with his experience, has seen it before. The big question now is not whether Ferrari can improve. The real question is, will they arrive on time? Or is this P6 in Japan just the beginning of something much bigger? The Japanese GP classification did not leave a simple grid image. It left an uncomfortable truth that Lewis Hamilton was in charge of putting on the table without filters, without excuses, and without trying to soften reality. Ferrari is not here to fight for victories today, and most importantly, it still does not fully understand how to get out of that situation. Because if something has become clear after his words, it is that this P6 is not an isolated result, it is not an accident. It is the exact reflection of the moment that the team is experiencing. A car that does not convey confidence, a technical base that has not yet found stability, and a gap with the leaders that is still too big to ignore. But within all this there is a nuance that completely changes the reading. Hamilton is not lost, he is not overwhelmed, he is not reacting out of frustration. He is understanding the process. And that is what makes this situation much more interesting, because when a pilot like him identifies the problem so clearly, he also begins to build the path to solve it. Ferrari is at a critical point, at that moment where each decision can set the course of the entire season. Either they find answers quickly, or they will be stuck chasing rivals who already have everything much clearer. And in the end, it all comes down to a single idea that flies over this weekend in Suzuka. Hamilton has already told the truth. Now it's up to Ferrari to show if it can change it. If you want, in the next step we can expand the first block with even more depth and key details that raise the level of the script. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.